There's a brand new item that's come into survival mode in Grounded, and it's going to change the way and where you build your bases. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Telepotty. Previously only available in the Playgrounds custom map making mode, it's now going to be added as part of the next 1.4 update. We're assuming it's not going to be part of New Game Plus, but instead something that you will be able to get at any time. So far what we do know is it's going to be a deployable. You won't be able to craft them, you'll have to buy them with raw science from Burgle. You can have up to 100 of them just like you can in Playgrounds, and you use them by changing the channel so that you always go to the same one. So they've got channels up to like 99 or 100, and so if you have 2 Telepotties with the channels changed to 4, then them 2 Telepotties will only teleport to them. We don't know how much they're going to cost, but we're presuming it's going to be a relatively expensive amount, so that they will be something that you can only buy if you save up enough raw science. But it does mean you can now have your base absolutely anywhere almost, making places much more accessible for building. Some of my most popular videos have been where to build your base in Grounded, and I've always judged and looked at the location of resources and where you're going to be spending the most amount of time. But that massively changes with New Game Plus. It's pretty obvious, but being able to place your base anywhere where you want and being able to teleport from it to somewhere a bit more accessible means you've got a lot more options, including the Brawny Boy bin. This is definitely somewhere that I've mentioned before, but I've always kind of got the hump with having to build a large scaffolding or ramp way to get up, and it's a pain in the butt having to collect all the weed stems and other resources to bring them. But now we can find and put a Telepotty here. It's going to be so much easier getting stuff that we need, and so you can now build a huge city if you really wanted to on top of the Brawny Bin box. You might only be able to afford a couple of these until you get enough raw science, but it still means that you'll be able to open up your choices. Somewhere else that I've always thought was good but not good enough was the Pagoda. Great for base defenses apart from flying creatures. If you wall up a lot of these gaps, you can have a really good time here, and it's large enough that you can build all sorts of floors and levels in between. You've obviously got the science station right here as well, the field station, and so it makes it even more valuable. So either in the Pagoda itself, or maybe go ahead and build a floating base and make sure you've obviously got a Telepotty. No longer having to build bridges, getting across to the mainland, it makes life so much easier, especially if you place the other Telepotty near the oak tree, and then you've got an easy way to get to Burgle whenever you want to. The pond's a great location to obviously go and get a lot of the mussel sprouts until you're eventually ready to grow your own. And although this isn't a full, absolutely base location guide, I still think it's worth mentioning a couple of these key points. It could be also good because you're relatively close to the berry bushes as well. But yeah, hopefully you get my point. It's all about the looks now. It doesn't have to be about where you are close to resources. The flagstones near the Franken line, I think, are one of the best locations. I always get mocked for people because I always build my bases here in my Let's Plays because it's the perfect location. You're near a field station, you're relatively near the ponds, you can get easy access to the upper yard if you build a high enough base, or even use the Ladybird lava cave that takes you up to the upper yard. It's a real central location to get to places like the termite woodpile, and of course again you're not too far away from the picnic table and having a lot of security on these flagstones from base defense and raids. The only thing you have to deal with a lot is sometimes wolf spiders and maybe some ladybird larvae. So I still think it's a great location, but it doesn't have to be the number one choice anymore for me. It means I can venture out of my comfort zone a bit more. We're not too sure exactly how and when we're going to be able to unlock these Telepotties though. There may be some kind of win that we have to do first, like the up zipline. In the past I've said it should be good if we defeat Schmector, but of course that might be a bit too late for everyone to enjoy. It doesn't look like it is going to be tied to New Game Plus. The devs didn't mention that in the stream. It does look like it will be something we'll be able to get straight away. If not, then there's still going to be some real big uses in having it around. If it's there from the start, then obviously you're still going to make your starter bases in the regular places, either on the baseball or close to the machine or somewhere near the oak tree so you can get to Burgle a lot. But your second base, your forever base, can be a little bit off the beaten track now. What about on top of the deck? Even bigger and larger than the Brawny Boy bin box if you really want to build a massive giant city. Or just the biggest box base you've ever seen in your life. For veterans, again, it's pretty obvious, but you're going to need these Telepotties to get to places like the sandbox so you can get plenty of salt whenever you want. The grill to go and get plenty of the coal, and some of the best places to get random loot, or not random loot, but the loot that you get from the boxes and more the candy types in the crevices. Not forgetting a ton of pupa too, and of course Black Ops beetles for their horns to make lots of upgrades. Strategically place a telepotty somewhere on the wooden line, separating the small berry bushes and the rest of the upper yard, giving you easy access to lots of pine cones, the berries, and of course even more of the higher tier creatures that you might want to face off against. It's going to be advisable to have one obviously right outside the entrance to the undershed to grab lots of the green scarab bug shells and the lots of lint as well. So you get the idea. Pros of Grounded won't need to be told this, but there's a lot of players that still haven't actually got to these stages yet, and with the influx of PlayStation and Switch, I'm looking forward to doing more detailed guides. Now the big option of course though is, why bother with telepotties if you've already got your towers set up? I got no real answer for that, for sure. If you've invested in zipline towers everywhere, then you might not necessarily need completely a ton of telepotties. And with raw science seemingly looking like we're going to need to spend it in other ways even more now, unlocking all of the infused recipes, you may want to hold on to it instead of wasting it on telepotties if you've already got ziplines everywhere. But it just makes sense, it still saves a lot of time, and for sure when you get to the point that you've got the weapons that you want, or you really want to be able to handle bosses quickly, placing some down at each boss location so you can quickly go in and farm them. Likewise the same with a lot of the laboratories. Thinking long term and going through New Game Plus over and over again, how cool is it going to be able to just be stepping straight over to the lab entrance once you start New Game Plus and knocking them out within minutes. I've never liked zipline towers. I felt like the resources to build them was often too grindy, and although it definitely served in the long run, I still felt like you also missed out a lot in encountering bugs and creatures. But by the time you get to the end game, you're not really caring that much about getting certain bug parts. You'll have chests full of them, and there's only certain resources that you're going to have to keep farming over and over. But yes, telepotties are going to be a game changer. I can see why the devs have been reticent about adding them, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they're unlocked and exactly how much raw science they're going to cost. But it's an absolute win for me that they're being done or they're being added. Like I said, no more having to waste lots of time building. If that's not your bag, you can just go ahead and place these down, and it's going to make New Game Plus really something a lot of speedrunners are going to enjoy now too. There's so many new options. I can finally build a tree base. I could build a base in the brickwork. There's just lots of cool ways and places that you can now have your base and you can think about moving. So think ahead, start getting prepped and getting stuff ready to move. If you want to build the base of your dreams in a location instead of worrying about resources, this is going to be the perfect time in 1.4 fully yoked. I'll be back with more guides, talking pieces like this as well. I'll see you ratbags for more grounded content, hyping up 1.4 soon. Bye bye.